All right, today on the show, we're joined by Paige Gordon, who bravely shares her journey of recovery from bulimia and how healing transformed her life. Paige, thank you so much for being here and having the courage to share your story. How you doing today?
Oh, it's a good day so far. Thank you for having me.
Now let's start at the beginning.
Mhm.
Before we talk about bulimia, how would you describe your life and mindset growing up?
So I came from privilege in terms of financially and the color of my skin. Um, but I would say beyond that, underneath that, I had a lot of trauma and neglect. My parents really weren't equipped to be parents. They did the best that they could, and I think that they did a lot better than what was done to them. But there was a lot of trauma and neglect in my house. And when I was 12, I actually moved out of my mom's house and I moved in with my dad for about a year. And then he ended up kicking me out. And I was in a foster care situation until I was 18. So it wasn't great.
Now, if you want to talk a little bit about that, what was it? Was it like rebellion and rebellious? What was it?
How, like, why,
It
why did my parents kick me out?
yeah.
Well, they're going to have a different answer than I do, but I actually talk about it, and I'm writing a memoir about my experience
Okay.
with bulimia, and I have a scene in there that kind of goes into this. But um, my mom was a single parent, and I think I just sort of stressed her out, and she was at capacity. But when she told me she was kicking me out, and I asked her why, she told me that she didn't love me anymore, and that she couldn't get a boyfriend because guys didn't like girls that had kids, and that it was my dad's
Wow.
turn.
Wow.
And my dad, I just sort of showed up without him having a real understanding that I was going to stay. He thought I was just visiting for the summer. And so he just was doing the best he could to sort of catch up because he hadn't been around that much and didn't know what to do with a 13, 12-year-old girl.
Now, did that have anything to do with how what shaped you as far as bulimia and everything? Did
Oh,
that
yeah,
have?
for sure. I mean, if you look at the correlations between people with trauma histories and eating disorders, it's pretty high. It doesn't mean everyone with the trauma history is going to get an eating disorder, or if everyone that has one had trauma history, but there's definitely a higher correlation for that, and it absolutely influenced the majority of my life. I would say that I always had trouble with attachments. I was more of an anxious attachment type of person because of the abandonment that I had when I was a kid.
Right.
And it wasn't until I actually stopped the eating disorder behaviors that I was really able to dig into that and kind of understand it and unpack that a little bit more.
Right. Now, when did you first notice your relationship with food was becoming unhealthy?
Um, in the moment, I noticed when I was 16. And looking back with reflection, it's easier to see the relationship with food started becoming abnormal when I went through puberty. So when I was 11, that's when the binging started. But I didn't know what that was then. And I really noticed something was wrong and when I was around 16.
Right. Now, how did it show up in your day to day life behind the scenes?
Yeah. So before I was bulimic, I was a binge eater. Binge eating disorder wasn't in the DSM until I believe 2014, and so I'm talking about when I was 11. That was in the 90s. So this, like, even if I would have told someone what was wrong with me, they wouldn't have known it either because it wasn't a thing yet. It was a thing, but science hadn't caught
Right.
up. But what I noticed as being a problem that I didn't know what to name is that once I got my driver's license, the most exciting thing about me getting my driver's license is that I could go eat fast food. That I was really excited that I could go eat whatever I wanted,
Right.
which in retrospect is not really normal. But I didn't know that back then. That to me, that was like the best part of independence is that I could go eat whatever I wanted. And so I quite literally would go to like the donut store before school and get a dozen donuts and eat them all on the way to school,
Mm.
or at lunch. I was really excited to go to the drive-through and eat the junk. I had a really strong, in my opinion, addiction to processed junk. And
Mm.
is that something in me? Is that because of my trauma history? Is that because that's how I was eating when I was 11 and no one was paying attention and I got addicted? Maybe all the above. I don't know, but it really got out of control in high school when I got my driver's license. And by the time I was a senior, I had gained like 40 or 50 pounds, which I wasn't obese. I was actually still, I had a higher BMI, but I wasn't anything to like be super worried about.
Right.
But I knew in me that there was something really wrong.
Right. Now, we all know that bulimia can have some effects, physical effects, right? Did
Yeah.
that kind of mess with you? Did you get ill from it physically?
Yeah. So I turned to bulimia my senior year of high school when I was living on my own. I had moved out of my foster family situation at the beginning of my senior year and got on like Section 8 housing and had a like almost full-time job to try to function. And I just found myself binging, and I turned to bulimia as a solution for this weight gain problem that I was having. And I say weight gain problem. I'm actually very body neutral. So it was a problem to me at the time, but I don't think weight gain is a problem in general. I should clarify
Right.
that. But for me, it was. I had fat phobia. And so I turned to bulimia. But yeah, it didn't really catch up to me in terms of uh, physical symptoms. For a good 15 years, my body was like holding on. But
Wow.
I would
So
say
it went on that long?
my bulimia, I was bulimic for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've been in recovery now for about 4.
Wow.
So I was sick for a really, really long time, and I felt completely hopeless. And I was at the worst of my disease. I was engaging in the behaviors of binging and purging multiple times a day, 3, 4 times a day.
Mm.
But yeah, in my early 30s, I would say, and I'm 44 now, what started happening is I stopped having my menstrual cycle. My hair was falling out in clumps. I had bald spots all over my head. My hair was super thin. And my labs were showing that my estrogen levels were like postmenopausal. My bone density scan was scary. I am pre osteoporosis because of the poor nutrients that I did to my body for so many years. So that was what really actually, that was the last time I tried to get help, is when I stopped having my period. It finally caught up with me, and I was super scared.
Yeah. Now, how long did you hide it? How soon was it before? What did it cost you after people found out? What did it cost you?
I would say it cost me less after people found out than when it cost me when I was hiding.
Mm.
Um, so the entire time that I was bulimic, up into my current spouse, didn't know that I was bulimic. I hid it exceptionally well, which I think is pretty common for it. It aligns very much to like addict type behavior. And for me, that resonates to me, where you'll do anything to hide it. And I was high functioning. I had a good job. So I just did my best to contain it and keep it in a little box. But what it cost me, I would say, is authenticity. It cost me my self-esteem. It cost me a lot of headspace. It was exhausting because I was constantly battling this disease, and I was in fighting with myself to not engage in these behaviors, and it was taking a lot of my mental load. So how that would come out is it would sort of come out sideways. The longer and longer I couldn't engage in the behaviors, the more irritable I became, and the more trouble I had self-regulating. So it cost me a lot of interpersonal relationships. I had such low self-esteem. I mean, who wouldn't? I was walking around lying to myself and to everyone around me about what was wrong with me. And then I think just generally my experience of bulimia treatment is it's very, I always got the impression that it was my fault, that it was my behaviors. It was me. And if I could just do better, if I could just follow the protocols, that I'd be able to get better. And I never was able to get past that point for a long time of not engaging in the behaviors. And so it just made me feel worse about myself. Almost every time I went to treatment, it just made me hate myself even more. So it cost me, honestly, everything.
When was the moment you realized, like, look, I can't keep living like this?
Um, I wouldn't say I had an aha moment like that in terms of what pushed me through to recovery. I just tried something that was out of the box. The moment that I really felt like I couldn't live like this anymore is when the hair was falling out of my hair and I saw it in the drain, which was the last time that I tried to get treatment through like my medical institution, the insurance type of situation. And that's was like, I can't do this. That was my rock bottom, I'd say, at the time. But the systems that were built to support me failed me. And so then I just gave up, and I thought, okay, I got to try to do the best I can to deal with the cards that I've been given and still function, because I really felt at the time that it was an incurable lifelong disease.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what were some common myths or misunderstandings you had about bulimia at the time?
Oh, well, so my understanding of the eating disorder community as a whole is, first of all, there's a lot of good helpers, and everyone's always trying. I've
Yeah.
never met anyone that was purposely trying to cause harm.
Right.
However, the tools that we have available to treat eating disorders are mostly behavioral based. And what I kept on getting fed in treatment is that if I just ate 3 meals a day and 2 snacks a day, and I fed myself enough food, and I normalized that these cravings to binge would disappear,
Yeah.
or that whenever I was eating, that I was disassociating, or I was trying to eat my feelings, or anything like that. No one once in 20 something years thought to question whether or not I had some sort of imbalance hormonally or something going on that was truly dysregulating my hunger signals. So it was always about like me not being in tune with my body, and that's what I was doing. Or if the behaviors just stopped and I was able to feed myself regularly, that it would work itself out. Um, and so I don't want to say that that's a myth necessarily, because I think that that is true, and it's based in good science. However, I don't think it's true for everybody, because eating disorders are really complex. Um, and so that would be the biggest thing that I still see today.
Right.
Um, I hear a lot of people in the eating disorder community. There seems to be sort of this beef that I'm seeing going on with the obesity field and the eating disorder field right now, because of the GLP-1s
Mhm.
and this term that they've coined with food noise. The first time I heard the word food noise was 4 years ago on a podcast, and they were talking
Right.
about obesity. Before that, I'd never heard anyone in the eating disorder field talk about food noise.
Right.
And there seems to be a real beef right now between some clinicians in the eating disorder space and the obesity specialists on this concept of food noise, and whether or not they even believe it exists, and that sort of thing. So I would say that's sort of something else that I see that's not helpful in the eating disorder space. It's not
Right.
acknowledging people's experience with food noise.
Right. Now, was there any mental and emotional challenges you had to unlearn?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, bulimia is classified as a mental disorder.
Yeah.
So I would say the first thing is, when I finally was able to find relief and I was able to stop the behaviors, it took a long while for me to relearn how to feed myself well. I'd say for the first year, I was just having mostly intuitive eating, and I think I still do that for the most part, but I wasn't really paying attention to like protein and all the different things, because I was just like so free of it. I was like, well, this is great that I can just feed myself and not worry about it.
Right.
Um, and then, yeah, I would say the thing that I had to relearn and really understand is that there may be something wrong with me biologically, or something that's making me more susceptible to have an eating disorder, but that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or that I'm fundamentally broken.
Right.
Um, and that I'm still worth getting help, and that I'm still worth love. Because truly, and it started with my childhood of being rejected and neglected, I didn't think that I was lovable, and I thought that I only deserved
Mm.
whatever was the level that I could get for someone that had an eating disorder, and that I was a hopeless case. And um, I mean, I'm just really thankful I didn't turn to drugs. I never had an addiction problem besides food, which is honestly kind of a miracle. But yeah, I thought I was worthless. I thought I was a worthless person. And
Wow.
so that took a long time to unlearn, and to allow love and all of that. So now I'm a mom and I have 2 kids, and I think that's the greatest gift. And it's talk about unconditional love. I love my kids so much, and I have a wonderful spouse who's accepting and forgiving. But that was the hardest.
Wow, that's beautiful. Now, how has recovery changed the way you see yourself today?
So the recovery's changed the way I see myself is kind of ties into the last question you just asked me, which is that I now realize that I am worthy of love and that I am a capable person and that I was doing the absolute most with the absolute least in terms of tools. And like anyone that is struggling for their life, it didn't look that great. I mean, it kind of looks like someone drowning in the water trying to like just get air. But that's what I was doing for the majority of my life. And that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. You know, when I decided to come forward with my story, I had a journalist say, like, hey, all this advocacy work that you're doing on eating disorder research, this is great, but there has to be a face to this story. Otherwise, no one's really going to care. And my first instinct was like, well, that's not going to, I can't tell my story. My story is filled with 25 years of like really terrible behavior. I mean,
Yeah,
if you were to read my memoir, I'm not like the hero in the story. I made one bad decision after another. It's like kind of cringy. Um, However, I think that's okay. And I have to own it. I can't change the past. I can just own it and look for the learning lessons so that hopefully it helps someone else so they can do better. And then I can just move forward. So being able to like not be ashamed of my past and all the numerous mistakes that I've made, it's like painful to read sometimes, um, is just part of my story.
right. Now, if you can look over at your younger self prior to the home abuse, mental abuse, and bulimia, what would you tell your younger self right now?
That you're just fine the way that you are in terms of how you look, the way that you act, that there's nothing wrong with you, and that you're worthy of love. Mm.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Paige. Now,
Yeah.
when the book comes out, what's going to be the title of the book?
Oh, that it's untitled right now. I had
Okay.
this great title that I thought was really clever, so thank you for asking me. But the powers that be are kind of going back and forth. I think it's between two right now, so
Okay.
I don't want to
Yeah,
say what it
don't
is. I'm
spoil
not
it.
sure.
Yeah, don't give it away. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward
You.
to having you back on the show when a book is released, and
Yeah.
we can talk about the book. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.